Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. It's been a minute. You have me as your host, Kimberly Horn, and medium Brooke Ashley, and we are here with a very special guest tonight, Dr. Kelly Renee Schutz, and it's all going to be about her tonight. I have so many questions for you, Kelly. Dr. Kelly, what do you go by? Dr. Kelly, Dr. Schutz? What's your preference?
Oh, whatever. I've been called many things, so whatever you want to call me is fine. Dr. Kelly is fine.
Okay. I know that when I was watching Aaron and Jason a few months ago with you on there, that's what they called you, as Dr. Kelly. And I thought I like that. So for people who have never seen you, which I'm be surprised if they haven't, I'm going to give a little rundown, and then I'm going to have you kind of maybe elaborate a little bit. I know that you hold 5 advanced degrees, and that you're an author of 12 paranormal books, and the 12th one is about to be published, and you are going to debut it in October. Is that correct?
Yep, it's on its way. It should be arriving any day now here, and Rock Island, what do they call it? Rock Island Roadhouse Esoteric Expo. So yeah. Do it there.
Yeah. Awesome. So that you are also you've had a vast professional career, including teaching as a college professor for more than 20 years. And you're a host of a few podcasts such as Disembodied Voices. And also your latest endeavor, which I did find very interesting, by the way, is called Paranormal Latte. I really like that show. So it's off to, it had me, I kept rewinding it because I was doing stuff in the kitchen and playing back. It's like, what did I miss? Oh, I got to hear it. So I really liked it. So
yeah, it's a really, it just launched, by the way. So it can also be seen on YouTube just as a backup plan, but they're going to play the latte show is going to Paranormal Latte will be every week, from this point going forward now. And I also have 3 other shows. So I've got 5.
Oh, wow.
5 total podcasts.
Okay. See, I knew you had a few, but wow, that's a lot. You are a busy lady, really busy lady. So what's your favorite out of the 5? Did they all talk across the board the same about the paranormal, or is there, because I know you have a law background too. So what, are all the shows the same, or?
So they're syndicated shows except for one. So Disembodied Voices is exclusive. And what that means is that whatever I do for them, which I interview guests, and I believe, I'm not sure, but I think I'm right. Kim, you're going to be on Disembodied Voices.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's exclusive. So anything that I do for them, I can't do for the other shows because those are syndicated, which means different introductions, different endings, and sometimes different content. So I've got Haunted Mysteries, which is kind of a spookier kind of show. I've got Phantasm, which is kind of a quirky show. I've got Paranormal Encounters, which is basically people's stories of paranormal, otherworldly, metaphysical. And for some reason, I can't even remember the last one that I need to bring up. But, there's 5 of them. I mean, I just started working on them and slotting everybody. And right now, from the way it looks, we could go until next year with all the people that I've got sitting on the pen. So, yeah.
I know when you sent me the schedule, I was like, wow, she's got a bit, and that was just for one show. I was like, I don't know how you get it straight. I don't.
I don't either, but a lot of coffee and a lot of late evenings. So yeah, it's a quite a task, but I enjoy it. I like being creative, and so each one has its own flavor. And and then the Paranormal Latte one, that's on a really large network, and so That one's kind of the grand baby of them all, but yet they're all very good in their own way. So
Okay, I know that I watched the Paranormal Latte today, and I really liked it. So
yeah.
I'm excited to go and watch some of your other stuff you have out there. So what's the name of your book that's coming out?
Okay, so the one that I'm debuting in at Rock Island is called Phenomena, Unexplained Happenings, and that is a very interesting book because it's got many, I'm talking like maybe 15, 20 different types of phenomena in there. And we tell the book, I have stories, I've got my own personal stories. I've got pictures in there. I've got questions. I've got theories. I've got ideas and thoughts. But so it's kind of like a mixed bag of a little bit snippets of everything, but yet it has kind of a way to make you think about what kind of energy, what we might really be experiencing out there. And that's really kind of the point. Once we get down to the big, the end of the book, it's like, so what exactly have you encountered? And that's
Okay.
really the main question of it all, really.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to get it because that's where I'm at in my stage of the game. I know that you talk about first having experiences since you were 5. Can you elaborate on kind of give us a timeline how you developed through these different stages and brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, I'll try to be concise on each one to try to bring you into my world. So when you're a young kid, around age 3, 4, 5, you have no idea what's going on in your world because you're starting to learn about your world. And so back then, though, I was having dreams of very horrific tragedy type situations. And then the next morning, I would see it play out exactly in my dream on, we had black and white televisions back then, when back in my day, and I'd be seeing the same thing play out on it. Now, keep in mind that at that age, you just want to watch cartoons, and there was always a breaking news thing, breaking in, this is what happened. And then I would stand there and I would look at the TV like, I just dreamt of that or whatever. So you bring it to your mother and you say, I just dreamt of that, right? And completely disregarded, completely imagination. Back in my day, it was either the devil or the angel, from, people's religious backgrounds. That's kind of how we were raised. We didn't really have a lot of this stuff ever going on for quite a while. And, until I was almost graduated from high school when the first incident of a teacher or 2 teachers having a haunted house came aboard. But anyway, putting that on the shelf just for a moment, around the ages of like 10, 11, 12, that kind of age, 13, 14, I noticed that I was having this very frequently when I was young. So I started to stop watching TV because I thought I was the one to blame. I thought I was causing this. Yeah, it's really strange for a kid to say, I'm the one to blame. I'm the one causing this. But when I got a little bit older, around that 12, 13, 14, that age range, 15, then all of a sudden, because this was happening so much, I was actually able to predict behavior at that age. So anything that happened to somebody that kind of ran across my radar, I don't know, I could almost tell you the outcome of what was going to happen with this individual. And I didn't know at the time. You just never heard of anything along what we're talking about now back then. So I thought, and I bring this up on every show that I'm on, I thought it was actually my genetics. And I know that sounds a little crazy, but I said, you know what? I don't have any other explanation. And the only thing I can think about is that I must have really got a good set of genetics from my relatives. And that is why I'm able to do something that others cannot do or appear to not do. And that is what I carried as a little secret inside of me for a very long time, until that kind of went out the door and then it advanced to something else. And so when I was around age 14, by the way, we had my grandparents had a Dutch colonial home in a rural area. And it was kind of spooky, but it was beautiful. They built it themselves. It was my great grandfather that built that house. And I used to sit outside and look on the lawn because it just kind of creepy vibe to the place. And I said, you know what? I really wish I could see a ghost, because all of my friends are saying to me, oh, I've seen a ghost, or we have a ghost. What is a ghost? And so I was looking for something physical to walk across the yard or float across the yard, and nothing of that sort. But believe it or not, and you have the picture, Kim,
Yes.
Years later, in my young 30s, I think, I actually photographed in that house, well, outside of that house, 2 apparitions, a young girl and an older man. And so the thing is that I did eventually see a ghost. There it is on that property. So for those of you watching right now, or those of you just listening right now, what you're seeing in this image, and you have to keep your eyes kind of don't over focus or anything. That is a screen window that you're looking at. Okay. And the screen window does not reflect, because a tornado had just gone through that property, and all the not all the trees, but the significant trees that would have caused that were down. And so when I went over there to just make sure that the house was okay after this terrible storm ripped through it, I was going around just photographing things. And I have that image, by the way, on a negative. So there is no tampering at all with this image. It is as real as you see it. But when I got the film developed, I said to myself, how did a ball get up in that window up there? How is there a ball up there? There should be nothing in the house. It should be completely empty. And then when I blew it up on my laptop, I was just absolutely shocked. The young girl, if you can see her, she's in the lower left-hand corner. You can kind of see this face with the eyes and the kind of nose and the chin. She matches a picture that I have in my genealogy. And then there's an older man hovering over her. If you see him, you can see the forehead, the eyes, kind of the nose, a little bit of mustache, and also his chin. And so the thing is that once I recognized that I was being watched that day, I was there by myself, by the way. It was very kind of spooky. But the next day I went back, I stood on the lawn, and I looked right at that window, and I said, I can't see you. Are you there? Do you have a message for me? And the message was, the genealogy is wrong. And I thought, what are you, genealogy? And yes, I'm the genealogist in the family. And so the thing is the little girl's name I identified as Lily, and her real name is Mary. And I matched her with a picture that I have in the genealogy, and she looks exactly the spitting image of our family facial features.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
but the ultimate question, though, is, and someone brought this to my attention when I started researching this, who is that? What is that? For the longest time, I wasn't sure if it was like a trickster or anything like that, because once they know that you have this real compassion for a place, you might feel yourself being really drawn back to it. And I was drawn to that property a lot after that point. And so I was worried just for a period of time that I was being lured back there for various reasons. And so you got to be careful when something like this happens, especially how they were looking at me. It was obvious they were curious about me. It's obvious her face matches my family's facial features. It was just plain old obvious. And he looked like my great grandfather, or the other explanation that came with that man was it could have been her doctor, because she died at the age of 10 in a property 2 miles down the road. And so she didn't even die in that house. She died 2 miles down the road. But the doctor was so distraught, he could hardly bear the fact that he lost her at the age of 10. You'll see that in that picture, she looks like she's 6-7 years old, and the older man looks like he's maybe mid 60s, young 70s, something around, or 75-ish. Well, the thing is she died at the age of 10 and he died close to age 80. So they were showing themselves to me as younger people, but that is very common when apparitions do show themselves to individuals that you are able at least to recognize. So there you go.
I think it's really interesting because you had a mindset, the whole family, the whole genealogy as being this person that you wanted it to be. And then it was like, no, it's this person. And it was like you couldn't have made that up. Like if you were to narrate a story like that based on that, you could have made it fit. And everybody's like, oh yeah. But you went and you did the work and there it is.
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. The thing is you can't make something like that up because it came to me. People ask, well, what did it sound, the voice that came to you, what did it sound like? It wasn't male, it wasn't female, it wasn't even a child. It was just some kind of a voice that came over me. And that's when I learned I was telepathic. And that is actually what started my journey on doing a lot of investigating and researching perceived haunted bed and breakfasts, which by the way, they all were. And then now I can't turn it off because when I started my obsession on this, now I can't turn it off anymore. I just have experiences when they come and they're not even just paranormal. They could be spiritual, they could be paranormal, or they could be otherworldly. So see, I'm on the fence on some of these things. I wrote, yes, I'm up to my 12th book. But the thing is that if I went back and I reread those stories now and I try to reanalyze the story, I don't know if I would come to the conclusion that they're all paranormal. So there you go.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at in my journey too. I started off in one spot because of my childhood experiences, and then trying to make sense of it, you kind of put it in one box. Right. And then as you get more and more experiences, you realize that that narrative doesn't work anymore. Right. And so here you are going, what the heck? Well, maybe that wasn't. And I'm just thinking it was because my brain couldn't handle that at the time.
Right.
And then there you go. But I'm now to a point where if I would have asked myself, a future self, I would have thought I was crazy. The things that I think now versus then and what I think it'd be, that aren't just necessarily spiritual. It's like your time slips, all those things that you've mentioned in other, podcasts that you've been on. I don't think there's one box for everything. And I struggle with people who try to say that something does fit in one box. I have a hard time with that because I think each person, it depends on where they're at in their level of being able, understanding maybe is what I'm thinking, how they perceive things. I don't know. So,
yeah.
I think she froze up on us. Did we lose you, Dr. Kelly?
Are you here?
There you are.
Sorry about that.
By the way, I need to warn you, I have a strong influence on electronics. And so it doesn't surprise me, even if it's if it's the internet or whatever. I have a tendency to blow people's systems out. But anyway, putting that aside, yeah. So I agree.
That's not good because I think Brooke actually has a lot of electronic interferences at her house, so that could be a possibility between you two on here. I don't know.
We'll just blow it right on up. How's that, Kim? But Kim, that's right. What you're saying is that I agree with you. See, the thing is you have to remember where everybody is at a different stage in their life in regards to the experiences that they have. And because of that, you can only build your blocks according to your experiences or what you know at the time. And that's the same thing with anything. People change, situations change. That's how it evolved for me into what I believe to be otherworldly. So see, I'm just doing like this, right? And I'm not even sure anymore. Something is directing me through my experiences to think about this stuff in a different way each and every time. And sometimes I'm like, yep. And sometimes like, I'm not sure. So, yeah.
So you just talked something about the electronics. Explain how your kinetic energy works. How is that psychokinetic stuff? For me, I've had TV shut off, but it's always been when I've been like going through a divorce and highly stressful times, and it's so random. So I'm curious. I'd like to hear your take on all that.
Well, I don't even know how I do it. So let me just go back to a bed and breakfast that my husband and I stayed at, actually the very first one after the apparitions showed up in the window. And I had to go out there because I figured if they could talk to me, then other ghosts or whatever apparitions could talk to me too, and they would show themselves to me in some way. So Litchfield Plantation, by the way, is where that was the very first place that we went to. And the experience I had with the television in our room is that it blew out of it at us sparks. And so then it shut off and everything was going crazy. Now, I didn't feel well during that trip. My husband was mocking the fact that there were no ghosts in there, but there were, because we had several experiences in that place that scared me, but I was so sick that I just wanted to go to sleep. And at the point where the sparks flew out of the TV right at us, that's when it caught his attention. And so I have absolutely no idea how I do it. I have an influence on casino slot machines. I have won several IRS tickets for the IRS to pay them. When I go in there, I ask to be directed to go to and channeled to go to the winning slot machine. And for some reason, something talks to me and it says, go left, go right. And sometimes I stand there and argue with myself because it's a boring machine and I don't want to play it. But, so I've got things like that. Being psychokinetic, I had a lot of things happen in one of my homes, a lot of poltergeist activity. And I really I believe though, I've haunted 4 out of 5 homes. So I'm in a brand new house right now and I'm still not escaped from that, by the way, because whatever I've got in here, play hide and seek. And that's another story. But anyway, so I don't know. I mean, things like turning clock dials, turning keys in doors, having shut, swollen wardrobe doors literally fly open, having things shoot against the wall in a pantry where I have no idea what's going on there. Catapulting a big bag that's sitting nicely and firmly on a bench, catapulting that into the middle of the floor next to us. I mean, I could go on and on about all the things that I'm not sure if I'm doing it or if something else is doing it. That's what really brings the mystery to this, because I never thought I was doing it. And then someone said, well, maybe you're psychokinetic. And I said, what's psychokinetic? So every time someone brings something up, I'm trying to learn about myself a little bit more. So anyway, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things that have happened. The one thing that I noticed, though, is that I'm not stopping watches. Like some people, they can stop their watches. I don't have that, but I can open up elevator doors. That's the thing that I can do without touching a button. I've been doing that for a long time and just crazy. So then who do you give the credit to? Yourself, something within inside of you, or is that something outside of you that's attached to you or following you or near you that just basically does it for you? So these are questions that people have to ask. Am I really doing it, or is there something doing it and we're getting the messages confused here? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Totally.
Yeah,
completely. My sister is one of the watch stoppers. She's very, very psychokinetic, and the electronics, they just go out on her all the time. She has to get a new phone every couple of months. It's a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know a woman who can turn clock dials backwards by 2 hours. So it's very interesting. Yeah, she came over to my house when she's a dear friend of mine. And I was interviewing her, I think, at my house. And so the thing is that she said that she had this unusual weirdness about her that she could turn a clock backwards by 2 hours. And so at first I thought, oh, yeah, malarkey. But then you know what happened? Guess what? I don't know if it was a week later or something like that. I came home and the clock was literally 2 hours backwards. And I said, wow, that took a long time to do. But for the most part, yeah. She blew out half a city, apparently. She was so electrical. And so she's got quite a vibe to her too. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting because you talk about when you were winning those casinos, your level was when you're tired and when your energy was low, but yet you have this other aspect where you blow out stuff. I mean, that's two sides of the spectrum. What do you think that is? I mean, are you calling in stuff when you're low, or I mean, is it that it's a frequency thing? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it's really hard to know because I just brought this up to somebody and I can't even remember who it was the other day. Oh, I know. I was doing a stand-up gig just recently in a town that I live in here. They wanted me to come and tell spooky stories, but during that story time, I did ask there was a psychic in there, and I just asked her gently. She was sitting, and I said, have you ever blown out a light bulb before? Because I have. Now, see, I need to explain this one so it makes sense to everybody. My dad was dying, and I was teaching in Indiana, 600 miles away. And I couldn't keep running back and forth and back and forth. So there's a point where I was in my classroom, and this will lead up to this, by the way, where all of a sudden I was teaching, and all of a sudden one day my students are pointing like this behind, look behind you. And I thought, God, I don't know what's going on here. And they looked kind of panicked. And I turned around and my screen was slowly going up to the top like that. That screen has never moved in 14 years. But when that happened, I knew my dad was passing or he had just died. And so that evening and then you turn around and you can't say anything because you're the teacher, right? And so it's kind of like, well, I'll get that fixed. I don't know, maybe it's just finally wearing out. Nothing to be afraid of here, but that room was so haunted. I haunted that room and brought every apparition you could think of on that property practically into that classroom. And the students started to notice that too, but anyway, that night when I went home, I had so much buildup of energy inside of me, so much buildup that when my brother called and he said, Dad died today. And I said, I know, because he was in my classroom, raising the screen behind me and scaring everybody to death. And it was at that point that the release came. And then my light bulb that was in a tall lamp right next to me just exploded. Anyone's ever had hot glass hit them from an exploding light bulb before? Let's just tell you, it doesn't feel very good. So anyway, yeah.
Yikes! Wow. So I have so many questions. I'm like, I have so much to ask you. Like, I know that you've had all these experiences. One of the things I wanted to ask you is about the black-eyed children. I know you interview people all over the place, and so you do research on all these stories. So it's not just your own experiences. You go out there and you're trying to find these answers. What is probably the most scariest thing that ever personally happened to you, and how do you deal with that fear going forward in your research?
Okay, so putting the black-eyed children / teens, adults aside for the moment, the absolute scariest was when Big Girl from the United States, aka me, had to go to Europe to see if the ghosts of Europe were any more stronger, more vibrant, more expressive, more everything. So yes, indeed, I researched one of the most haunted buildings. It was a 900-year-old building. It was somewhere, I think, in Wales somewhere. It's been a couple of years for that one. And I had to be in the most haunted room. So when I arrived, because they never confirmed what room I was going to go in, I said to the people at the front desk, I said, yeah, you didn't confirm to me what room, but I want to be in the most haunted room. She goes, I'm not putting you in the most haunted room. I said, why not? I said, I'm here to write a chapter for my book. I need to have material put me in the most haunted room. She goes, nope, because the minute you go into that room, most people don't stay in there more than 20 minutes. They'll turn around, they'll come down here and they want to sleep on the couch all night. And no, we're not going to have that. So I'll put you in the second most haunted room. Oh, thank you. I'm not worthy. Okay, well, boy, was that a mistake. But I mean, I'm telling you, I got my chapter. So it was when they put me, it was one of these rooms where, first of all, the place was a maze. You couldn't find the room. So even if I ran out of there to try to escape that floor, I wouldn't have been able to find my way back down to the lobby. It was that mazy, okay, because it was cold. Secondly, you had to knock at the door and you had to ask permission to come in. You just couldn't go in and go, here I am. No, you had to ask permission. So knock, knock, may we please come in? So we opened the door up, and you know that feeling that's just dreadful? It's just like ugh, heavy and makes you sick, and you can feel it the moment you walk in there. Well, that's the way it felt. So we brought in champagne and chocolates. And I said, I am going to make peace with this thing in here, whatever it is. I'm going to offer it up champagne and chocolates. And that way it'll be a nice ghost tonight and it won't be a really bad, terrifying ghost. Well, I am going to tell you. It's the one that I had the cycling mirror. So before we went to supper, the manager came down. She said, I need your key. The ghost will not let the janitor into the room to change a light bulb, change a few things, because my husband, oh, that's just a carnival trick. They're just trying to scare us. I said, I don't think so. I don't think so. They wouldn't look this serious. And so when we went back up, knock, knock, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, when we got in there were handprints all over my pillow. Oh, that's another carnival trick. They're trying to scare us. No, I don't think so. She swore that the janitor would never touch anything in the room. All right, now we're at bedtime. My husband throws the holy water. I am facing one of those long Victorian mirrors. I am facing this mirror. He's facing the other direction towards the bed. He throws the holy water. And kid you not, this is exactly what happened. It went na, 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 kind of with its shoulders like this. What it was doing, it was unloosening the screws that people keep tightening, including ourselves, to make sure that the mirror wasn't going to move. And it unscrewed itself, and then it started on its own. It started cycling, probably went about 1.5 to 2 rotations. And I stood there, and I absolutely went into a panic attack so badly. My husband froze in midair. It just was so weird. And then when he came out of it, he looked at me and he goes, what's wrong with you? You look like you just saw a ghost. I pointed to the mirror, and now it's on its belly like this. So before it was like this. And so now it's on its belly. And the thing is there was no carnival trick after that. His personality changed. He would lie down in bed. He went immediately asleep. He didn't want anything to do with why we were in there. And I did capture an orb floating around in there. But the thing is that the next day, I didn't get any sleep. The wardrobe was open next day. I felt it lay on top of me. I felt it sit on my legs, everything you can imagine. And I had a black mask over my eyes, and I begged it to please don't hurt me. Because remember, if I would have walked out of there, I wouldn't have been able to find the lobby. And there were 12 ghosts flitting around in there, including a young boy. And I mean, I could go on and on about the variety of ghosts. But the next day when we went down to when we were leaving, the manager said, can I ask you to come back up to that room for just a second? And I said, I'm not going back up there. I said, I got my material. Thank you so very much. I look like absolutely just terrible, right? Just imagine a woman with their makeup all the way down their face, crying, don't hurt me, that kind of thing. And so we go back up there and knock, 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 may we come in? All right, whatever, go in. She brings me over to the mirror, and then she says to me this mirror. I said, don't say another word. I said, this mirror should be taken out back and smashed to bits. She goes, every time my maid comes in and she's vacuuming the floor, the bottom of the mirror lifts up and hits her in the butt. Oh, so it's a flirty thing. And it's also, it's got a sense of humor. Well, that's really great, And so, but I have to also preface one more thing before all of this experience happened. Basically, in a nutshell, I went through what was called an electro cobweb when we started going to the room, and I electrified. And then I actually saw the apparition rushing around the corner, and I matched her face with a picture that I actually have in the book. And it was like perfect. Yeah, that place is like a carnival show. If you want to get scared out of your mind, 3 years after that, I did not do any ghost searching. I didn't do any more investigating. I said, I'm done. I've been proven. I understand how bad this could get. I think it was just trying to prove something to me. I don't think it was trying to scare me. And when I went into my panic attack, when it laid on top of me, it was so cold that I actually welcomed it. It was like, oh, thank you, because I need something to cool down. So that was the scariest. And then 3 years. And then after that, guess what? Things just kept happening and happening and happening, and I couldn't shut it off anymore. So I just, look at this very differently now. Yeah.
I could imagine after that.
Yeah.
So do you believe that mirrors are portals?
Yes. There was 4 mirrors in that room. They created a portal. It was the cycling mirror. There's a mirror behind our head. There's a mirror across the way, and there's a mirror in the wardrobe. So they all literally centerized. And where my husband was standing, where he threw the holy water, was the center of that. And by the way, for anybody who really loves your mirrors, they also like to hide in mirrors. And they love this. I don't know why they like to do it, or if it's infinity or whatever the thing is, but there are more reports of apparitions in bathrooms and coming out of mirrors and doing this and that than you could ever imagine. So I have very few mirrors in my house now, but the mirrors that I do have, don't think that I don't think twice once in a while. And yes, I do have an infrared camera in a couple places in my house, which can also act like a Ouija board, or could act like something that can actually draw things in. But I needed them. I do need them because I've had so many situations that I just verify. Yeah, they're really going at it tonight. And, some people want to say orbs or dust. They're not all dust. I'm sorry. They're not all moisture. They're not all bugs. They're not all this. You can tell an intelligent orb from a dust orb if you do this long enough. And I have them visiting. We all have them. They basically go through everybody's homes. I mean, they don't realize this, that everybody has these orbs going through. But I don't know if I ever shared this with you, and people need to know this, that there is a woman in Australia who has actually been able to take the orb, I don't know, must be standing still, and she knows a method on how to peel it back. I have her book. Her name's Marlena Marcan. She's from Australia. She has a book out there, and she shows you what's inside these orbs that she's been capturing. And it's everything from little kids, deceased people, alien looking type creatures, animals. And so she's been able, but she won't share how she does it. So, and I don't blame her, but I hope that someday someone learns the technique. So anyway, yeah.
Right. Definitely. How do you find that, because you have so many degrees and you have this background in what people would look at as this nice, stable, kind of analytical minded space, right? And I find that people tend to be so dismissive of this world and what we kind of are into, and tend to think that we don't have educational backgrounds, or we've always been like, stuff of that nature. And then you come across people like Kimberly, who is military, and like you, Dr. Kelly, who has just unbelievable amounts of degrees in education and all of this stuff. How do you tend to see the shift in people when they realize that you're not just some kook who, but you're actually an educated professor and have had a background? Do you find them to change their body language or the way that they approach you or talk to you about certain things?
if you're a skeptic, you're never going to be able to change that skeptic's mind until they're ready to change their mind. So I don't even bother with that. By the way, the majority of my friends are all skeptics. And when I can't even talk about this subject with them. I was in the paranormal closet all my life when I was teaching. I, by the way, have a 8-year law background. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm a paralegal, but we're about as investigative as the way a lawyer thinks. And so that's one of my strongest degrees, other than my PhD, 2 masters, a bachelor in human ecology, which is understanding people's behavior and all that. So I've got a good list of credible education and research minded background to understand that you can't, this is difficult. This is a pseudoscience field. You can't, it's difficult to prove, although I do have evidence. I have evidence that cannot be explained otherwise. But when you deal with individuals that have strong beliefs or religious backgrounds, or they were brought up a certain way, or they live in a certain environment or whatever, you're going to find that it just kind of like it's a pod of how people think. And so to try to convince somebody of this stuff is scary. Imagine having all your friends not want to go near the subject because they think that you're dealing with the devil. Am I dealing with the devil? Maybe I am dealing with the devil. Maybe I'm not dealing with the devil. You know, I've had more miraculous healings and things of that nature. Maybe I'm dealing with a spirit guide rather than something paranormal or otherworldly or whatever. Where do my own gifts come from? The traumas that I've suffered throughout life. And they don't have to be big, major traumas. They can be accumulation of different traumas. And then all of a sudden up here, the pineal gland starts to redo itself up in your brain and then rewire itself, where all of a sudden you've got a few more things you can do that somebody else can't. And that's not to discredit them. That's just to say that this is how unique we all are as individuals. So that, how do I deal with it? You would be surprised to learn. Book. Oh, are you still here?
Yep, here we are.
Are you here?
Yep.
That very first book that I wrote was because I couldn't take it anymore and I had to get it out. It was like a journal. And from that very first book in 2016, after all these experiences, that's when I became noticed. And that's when I started to shoot up like a kind of a rising star, or whatever you want to refer to me as, someone very, very now. Now that doesn't mean that people still don't look at me and go, oh, bull hunky. You know what? Maybe to you it is, not somebody like me that lives this stuff every single day. Until you've had a situation where a driverless car tries to run you over, and it was very purposeful in its actions. Just understand that I'm on a movie now because of it. Not that it matters, because movies are entertainment. However, I have a feeling this movie is not entertainment. This movie is more like, this is about as real as it gets kind of movie. So yeah, I've got a lot of experiences and they don't shut off. And so one of the things too is that I do have evidence that do go along with when I talk about things. And sometimes you just slowly chip away at attitudes, and sometimes you just will never be able to chip away at it depending on who you're dealing with. So I love the fact that when I came out of the paranormal closet and I had to I'm retired, rid my life of what I used to do, because I don't have to impress anybody. I don't have to look like anyone to anybody. I can just be me. You'd be surprised. My depression lifted. I became happier. Life became more calm and peaceful, even though I have all this, whatever. But the thing is that I found my community. And there was one woman at a conference. I was up on a panel and she asked me the question. She goes, I can't get my skeptic friends to believe in half of this stuff. And I said, by the way, do you see who you're sitting around here today? You have found your community. These are your people, not to sound cultish, but these are your people. These are who you talk to. These are the people that aren't going to judge you. These are the people that are going to embrace it and ask about your experiences. So I know that was a little winded, but that's how I feel about it right now.
Totally agree.
Yep, it's a good point though, because like with myself as a suicide survivor, part of the reason I went down that road was my paranormal background, the things I experienced. It was traumatizing and no one to talk to about it, even with an open family, because my family's pretty open-minded. I still lost cousins. I still lost aunt and uncles to my belief system, and I couldn't convince them otherwise, and it broke my heart. It literally tore me in two pieces. And I know that that happens to so many of us. And those traumas that you talk about, it, instead of shutting down your abilities, somehow it lights a spark. And unless you've been down that road, it's hard to explain to somebody who's never seen, like you said, a ghost before. They don't understand it because it doesn't apply to them. So it's a very good, valid point.
Yeah, and keep in mind, all my best friends, they don't believe in this stuff. So I can't talk about it when we go out and have supper or dinner or lunch or anything like that, because they just shut down immediately. The little wall comes up like this. You can just see it. Like all of a sudden it just kind of closes. And when they ask me what I'm doing, I just tell them the very simple basics. I've got 5 shows. I've got this. I interview a lot of people. I do that. I'm on a movie and that, and they still do this. You know, it's like the door is closed. You're not going to open it up even a crack. But you know, the thing is like, I am so grateful for our community. At least those that are. We have so many of us in this community that it's just you know, again, pick and choose your outlet. But by the way, I was called crazy myself when I was younger. I was teased, you know, everything was a joke. And that, but you know what started it out was when I photographed the young girl and the older man in that screen window of my grandparents' house. And then all of a sudden I'm like, explain this. So then what do they say to me? Oh, those are tree leaves. No, they're not. There's no trees up. There's no way. There's not clouds. They're not this. And I filtered it 100 times. Next. You know, so then it just stops conversations.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
It led us to be equipment makers, because my husband's a skeptic, but he has came so far on that spectrum because now he's questioning everything. And I love it, because if we could get those two to collide, then maybe that door will open just a little bit for people. And that would be, to me, that would be a win. That would be a big win. But I want to know this movie that you're hinting around about, the car with no driver. Can you talk about that at all?
Well,
are you allowed to?
I can't talk about the movie yet. I was just filmed in a movie, but yes, I can talk about it. I'll try to give the short version so it makes sense. Are we good on? We're good on time for this. Okay, I just see the time here. Okay, so let me start out by saying how this all began. My husband and I went over to Europe. We went to Brussels, and we went to his uncle's cemetery. He was American, who died in the Nazi war in 44 or 45. And so we went over there to visit him in the Henry Chappelle Cemetery. 9,000 bodies in there. Second visit to him. Always, you know, stop by to say hi and hello. So what happened was, and this is very interesting. So we're kind of socializing with the tombstone, right? And he was there. It was not a mass grave. I guess he really was buried where his marker was. And so, long story short, my husband was walking away, and I put my hand on the tombstone, and I sizzled. And if anyone understands what sizzling is, I electrified. I went to top, very electrified. And I was going to go to my husband, like something weird is happening to me, but he was already like 2 blocks away. But I told him when we got into the car, I said, I sizzled when I put my hand on his tombstone. I was just wishing him well. All right, let's fast forward another day. The next day we went to a World War II museum in the Netherlands, which was just, you know, not far away. And so in this area, they had collected in this museum thousands of artifacts. I mean, I'm talking loaded. This place was loaded, and they're still finding them. But we got to the gift shop, and I guess you call it a gift shop. And it's a shop where they had antique things that they were trying to sell. And my eyes captured this harmonica. And I am not one to buy things like that in any museum, especially with my background. Okay. And so my eyes caught wind of this harmonica, and I said, I've got to have that harmonica. It's speaking to me. It wants me to buy it. And my husband said, don't buy that thing. Do not buy that thing. I said, okay, where's the shop manager? Can you tell me a little bit about this harmonica? Yes, I acquired it from the opposition. And essentially, in a nutshell, I'm trying to just sell these things. The opposition meaning a Nazi war museum.
Oh.
Okay, now keep in mind the uncle fought against the opposition. All right. And so anyway, my husband, don't buy that thing. Do not. And I said, how much do you want for it? Oh, 60 euro. I said, I'll take it. So that's a woman to her husband, you know. Yeah, don't do it. Yeah, I'd like to buy it. Give me 10 of them. That's a typical woman, right? So anyway, I bought this thing, and it was actually in our room, but when we brought it back, but the next day we were in Brussels at a new hotel. And so it's possible that the energy of the I don't know, of the uncle or something came upon me. And then I have this harmonica that came from the opposition. And so we were walking down an alleyway, and I looked over to the left, and there was two. It was very crowded. Anyone who's been in Brussels, especially in the main square, knows how crowded it is. And so there's two taxis by this hotel, and a third car was approaching. And so, you know, you just kind of like, you know, and my husband and I are just casually walking down the cobblestone street. And then all of a sudden I hear, oh, like that. And I heard, and I thought, oh, weird. So I just turned and I looked again. And so there was the man standing outside of the door was open to this car, the third car that was approaching. Two of them were in front of him. And he's like, it kept going by itself. It wasn't him. It wasn't anybody in there. I think there was two people in the car. And so all of a sudden he's starting to be dragged. So he's like trying to get inside the car, but he can't. But that car just, and we're right in the sight of the car. So here we are. The car's right here. Here we are right in the sight of it. And over here was a building, these historical buildings. And basically in a nutshell, it went rum, and then all of a sudden it started to drag him. He couldn't get inside of it. And something inside of me said, run, just run. So I pushed my husband really hard, and I pushed him against the building in front of us, you know, across the way. And the thing went rum, and it sped up to like something like 80 miles an hour. And then it shot off like a rocket. But it was when it hit the taxi in front of it, it kind of went bump, and I saw it, and it went around it like, get out of my way. And then it went vroom, and then it just shot off like a rocket. It smashed into the building. And I said to my husband at the time, I said, don't look, it's going to explode. Do not look, it's going to explode. So what does he do? He looks, right? And then boom, 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 boom. Those are all the airbags. Two people were helped out of the car. The driver just got into it. They smashed right into the building as he just got into it. And so the ambulance was there like in 5 minutes. I took some pictures of it, and I said, what just happened here? And it was the terror on that man's face and the way that car just said, get out of my way. And we were the only two in its sight. There's people in front and back, but it was obviously coming right at me. And so when I had the harmonica on the being filmed for the movie, the harmonica wasn't happy. I have it behind glass right now. It's not very happy. It wasn't happy with me. And so it electrified and was going crazy. And I told them this. I said, the harmonica is going crazy right now. And they wanted me to put it away, and I didn't. I said, no, this is going to be filmed because this really happened. It was the creepiest, weirdest thing I could ever talk about regarding a ghostless driver wanting to run me over. Only one other case of Lorraine Warren was chased after by a ghostless car. So it's hard to say what happened there, but I'm telling you, is energy real? Yeah. Is it weird? Yeah. And so, yeah. So I don't know when the movie's coming out. can't really say much about it until it comes out. But the thing is that I do show the harmonica a lot in that movie. So anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's a good one to end our show with tonight.
Well,
That's gonna leave me scratching my head.
most people would say, was there something wrong with the car? Did it accelerate on its own? Da da da. I have no idea because I'm not even quite sure what the brand was. I don't know if it had any history of this, but I can tell you one thing: they kept it out of the paper. And so, I mean, what a lawsuit, right? So
yeah. I mean, you hear about smart cars and things like that blowing up, and those are self-driven cars and things like that. But it sounds like if it was an older model, I don't know, it would be kind of hard to get the gas to go up and down without pressure.
Yeah, rum.
Yeah. So one question. So I'm confused. So the man was able to get back in the car before it blew up, or after?
He got in it.
What happened?
He got into it. So he was being dragged, and then just before it smashed into the building, he had just gotten into the car, and then it smashed right into the building.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was being dragged when it was speeding up to like 80 miles an hour.
He was being dragged.
Wow.
Yep. Vroom. Whoa. Gets in the smash. Yep.
Holy cow. That had to be traumatic for the guy.
And everybody around, including me, considering I knew it was after me. Yeah. Well, and he was okay. He was very shaken. The ambulance got there very quickly. We left. We didn't stick around. The other two people that were in the car also got out of the car, were helped out of the car because all the airbags went off. So, I've never been behind an airbag, but I can imagine that was no fun. To crawl out of a car with an airbag in your face.
Right.
My law enforcement friend says it breaks ribs. It does damage. It's very painful.
Yeah.
Very, very painful.
Yeah.
I wish we had another hour. I could keep going and keep going. So do you discuss all these stories on your podcast, this new Paranormal Latte? Since you said you do talk about some of your personal experiences, how can people find you so they can come see your website and learn more about you? Because you're fascinating. This has been a quick hour.
So, I'm actually today, what a day, right? I was invited to be a speaker in Kentucky next year, all paid expenses, which is very interesting and fun too. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But to come to see me, I'm going to be at Rock Island on October 4th, 5th, down in Rock Island, Illinois. My website is www.paranormaluniversalpress.com. I've got a lot of different things that have happened to me. Just go to the website. You can read all about some of this quirky stuff I've been through. Facebook, you can find it under Kelly Schutz or Paranormal Encounters podcast series. And then as far as all these shows go, that'll be on my website. And I've got the links on how you get to all these shows and when they play on that website. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any last minute things you want to add in there, Brooke?
Well, I don't know how much. Yeah, I don't know how many minutes do we have? 2 minutes? Be careful what you wish for.
Yes.
Be careful what you wish for, because because that's how it all began, and now I can't shut it off. So
yeah.
I'm looking forward to being on your show. What, in a week or so? Is that correct? I'm really curious. Yes. I mean, my mind, it just, like you said, it just keeps going. There's so many questions. I think when you dive into something like this, that's what happens. It unlocks something. So, you want to talk to other people who have had profound experiences and compare notes. And so it just keeps going. And I don't know if we'll ever find out the answers, but it sure is I don't know, like you said, almost like an addiction drug of trying to understand. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, thank you so much, Dr. Schultz. I almost said Kelly Schutz. I cannot talk now that it's.
Are you? Did I leave you tongue-tied here, Kim?
You did. Well, yeah.
Get
because
ready,
my brain
because
is
when I
like
come at
that.
you during your interview, it's going to be quite a ride. So get ready. All right. Hang on to it. Bring a pillow. But thank you so very much for having me on.
Thanks for
We enjoyed it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. We'll see you guys next week or next month for another episode of Spector and Spooks. And thank you guys all for being here tonight.